Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Metro Monthly update. This is for the first update of 2023. This is January. I am
Right.
the CEO and Chairman, Derek Boyd, and this is.
I'm the President and Secretary, Vladimir Stakov. So this is going to be a short video. We'll talk about that in a bit, and let me explain the picture. So, without going into too much detail, we have been working on a big deal since like November. We finally started making headway on it in December, and we still, at the end of January, to give you guys an idea, today is February 1st. At the end of January, we still have not gotten anything done with it, but it's seemingly going to be a very potential, profitable deal. So because of that, whether we're going to wait until either the deal comes through and we get something signed, or at this point, we've spent so much time on it, we'll talk about the actual deal and the disaster if it doesn't come through as well in a later video, not this one. But the reason we got this guy back here is because this is what we look like waiting for something to happen with this deal. So let's go on ahead and let's get into it. This is going to be a fairly short video because, again, nothing really talk about it because we're working on something else in the background that we still can't talk about and have no confirmation one way or another. So December wrap up. We finished all the plumbing, all the piping, and everything else like that, like what we talked about back in the December update. The only thing that's not done is the shower over at 104 for no nefarious reasons whatsoever. And also, what
the issue is the parts that we need, they're not available in stores and online. It's hard to find.
It's a very custom part, so it's either we have to rip out the entire plumbing of the back shower and completely redo it with new plumbing, which is going to cost us like $400-ish to do because we have to buy new fixtures, new shower head, then all the plumbing that goes into it, then reconnect it all together. Avoid that.
We're really trying to use what's there without having to completely replace it because the likelihood of us keeping that particular mobile home is very low to begin with, and we don't want to keep having to put in actual repairs. Now, of course, we want to make sure it works and everything runs, but we're not looking to do full-on replacements.
Yep. So that's the only thing that's not done is the 104 shower, but every single unit has hot water, every single unit has cold water. We have met the legal requirement for South Carolina until we can figure out how to get that one particular part. Now, next thing is that 136. They completely left sometime in December going into January. We're not 100% sure, but I'm going to add this into the December portion.
Yeah, we last saw them when the pipes bust, like the third day that we were out there working on it.
Which was still in December.
Yeah, it was like December 28th or 9th, I think. Because the 25th was obviously Christmas when we were out there the next day. So somewhere around the 28th or 9th. That was the last time we ever seen or heard from them ever. Same with the neighbors. So obviously we reached out to them before about like payments and stuff for January, updates for the plumbing. Of course, like I said, we talked with the neighbors to see if they've heard or seen anything from them. They just straight up disappeared and ghosted. So that's why he's saying somewhere around December, January, they just left and we don't know when.
Yeah. So we're just going to leave that one in December. But that's pretty much all the wrap up for December because obviously we're working on something else in the background this whole time. We're going to move on to January. So January, we're going to knock out two things real quick, and then we're going to talk about what we talked about in the December video about how him and I were going to have a private meeting of a refocusing and what is our plan, what are we going to do kind of deal. So we went on ahead and we listed 130 again. And it's kind of funny, there's a little bit of a story with 130. So we had it listed as the rent-to-own kind of segment because it was in worse condition, because there was pipes that were busted there. We decided to lower the monthly amount to make it more feasible for somebody to get in there, to fix the plumbing, then get the electric permit, and then be able to start living in the home. So we lowered the price down to $500. We got a person who submitted a background check. We're very adamant they wanted the property. We recommended them multiple times to go see the property first, like we do with everybody, because any kind of distressed property, I really do not want to take somebody's money until they've seen it, because once I take their money and they sign agreements with us, I'm not refunding it, because at that point it's their fault for not doing due diligence. So when we always tell people to go and see it, well, This lady.
And this is very specific, like you said, distressed ones. If it's
Yeah.
like a home you could just move right on in, we're a little bit more leeway with it. We'll still tell everybody every single time, go check it out. But if they
It's
don't,
not going to be refundable.
not-
the
yeah.
second you put money down with us,
Those ones-
we're not refunding it.
we're not too worried about a backlash on. But the ones that you literally cannot move in, because everybody, in their infinite wisdom, they will just see the price tag being like the $500 monthly rent and be like, oh, I'm paying $900 here when I could be paying $500 and buying a place here. Let's just move over there.
Mhm.
They don't read the rest of the ad that literally says you can't
The
move
reason
in.
they're paying $900 is because they can live there.
So we always
Because it's somebody else fixing
Dude,
everything.
So we clarify in the ads, we clarify in like the numerous phone calls, we clarify before we meet for contracts, we clarify the day of contracts, and they just still, in their just belligerent ignorance, they still just choose not to look at it, and they'll just move forward, and then this leads to these
So
problems.
this lady's background check, because she was doing the rent to own. We obviously do backgrounds on the true rent to own kind of style. This lady wanted to do the rent to own, $500. We did her background, and it was a terrible background, not criminally, but just debt wise. It was awful. And so I told Derek, double her rent, and like that's what she has to pay up front, and then
So
she
like
can move it
first and
from
last
there.
month's rent,
Yeah.
to move in.
So yeah, she had to pay first and last up front and then go from there. So Derek did that. They agreed. We were supposed to meet at a restaurant locally.
No, we were supposed to meet at a place that we usually meet, which
Oh,
is
yeah. Our
a
good
coffee
old,
shop.
Our good old Panera
Bread.
Bread subscriptions. We have
Because-
in every video.
We're constantly traveling around, and so it's convenient for us to be at locations that, once again, that are nearby other properties. And stuff.
We don't have to wait to be seated.
Yeah.
We don't have to do all this other stuff. We just walk in. Derek and I get our coffee subscription. We have a third coffee subscription for my fiance that we'll occasionally use for people that we're signing paperwork with just as a courtesy,
Yep.
since we're already paying for it anyway, and then kind of go from there.
And they couldn't do that one. It was in a big
Specifically.
town because it's
Yeah.
literally within reason for all of us.
So they couldn't meet us at Panera because, and I quote, their car was having problems, and so they needed somewhere closer.
Mhm.
So they wanted to meet at a Clock in Anderson.
Yeah. So like a
Which is
local
only
restaurant.
10 minutes away from where we wanted to meet. Whatever.
Yeah,
Not a
right
huge
down
deal.
like 2 roads.
Yep. Not a huge deal. Whatever. Sure. Fine. We'll meet there. We schedule out a meeting time. The morning of, I saw a message come in because, again, Derek and I share the company line, so we see everything that each of us gets for the 1-800 number. I see a message come in where she's sitting there and she's asking us to meet at the property now. And to give you guys an idea, for me to get to Anderson, it's about like 20-ish minutes. For him, it's about 30-ish minutes. For us to go to the mobile home park, it's about 40 minutes for both of us. So neither one of us wants to
And-
go to the mobile home park if we can avoid
And
it.
not to mention, since we had already planned to meet in Anderson, I had other plans around, so we schedule all of our stuff in one day to make it convenient. So the other problem is, too, is that now they're displacing us by about another 25, 30 minutes somewhere else, which then means that our follow-up appointments are going to get delayed because then we have to
Because of
travel
them.
a further distance.
So I immediately responded back, and this time I responded. I was like, no, we said Panera. You said that wouldn't work. You said Clock. We agreed to it. You gave us the time. We agreed to it. We're meeting at this Clock. We'll see you there at the agreed
Yeah, it
upon
was
time.
literally her time and her place.
Yeah, we'll see you
Schedule
there
around her.
just like we agreed to. So, Derek and I show up at this Clock, waiting to like see where this person is. We're just chilling. We're waiting. Then at 2 o'clock, they message us saying that they are
No,
physically.
I called
Oh, I'm
numerous
sorry.
times.
Derek called them multiple times to see, hey, where are you? What are we
Then sent
doing?
a follow-up text because I didn't get an answer. It just kept going straight
Yep.
to voicemail.
And then at the time of us meeting, that's when they messaged us saying that they are physically at the property. And as soon as I heard that, I told Derek, I'm out.
Mhm.
I refuse. I'm not dealing with her because here's the thing. Already, I didn't like the background. I told him that. We were willing to work with her if she was obviously willing to do first and last up front. She agreed. We sat there and we let her pick the place. We showed up at it. And I was like, I am physically here. And even after that morning, literally like 3 hours before we met or so, I confirmed, no, we are not going to meet at the property. We are meeting here. And then we get this text that she's at the property. I was like, I'm going home. I'm done.
And then it all just
It fell apart.
Floodgates fly open.
So,
She starts flipping out.
Let me give some context to this. 130 Car Court is located in our mobile home park, located at Car Court. The main address of our mobile home park, to easily find it at any time, you would punch in 108 Car Court to get to our mobile home park. And what they had done is they had typed in 130 Car Court into the GPS. And there is another place that comes up on the GPS that is titled 130 Car Court in the same city as our mobile home park, which is wild already. And when you drive there and you see it, there is nothing there but a power pole. I know, because I was looking on Google Street View laughing. I'm like, oh wow, there really is something else there, and there's absolutely nothing there. So this person with supposed car problems, who had to have us meet at this clock, could drive further to get to the actual park, but wasn't even at the park, was at this other location of 130. Then, I've never seen the most unhinged barrage of text messages from a person as I did this lady. She started barraging us, threatening to sue us, press charges, threatening. And by the way, if you're wondering what she's threatening to sue us over, she's threatening to sue us over $36 that she paid for the background check, because we're scammers and we scammed her, even though she literally got a background check from TransUnion. Yeah, TransUnion from Rent Spree, which, by the way, we don't get that money. That gets paid directly to them. That's how we have it set up.
If she were to sue anybody, she'd have to sue Rent Spree for the service.
And
us.
Like threatening to press charges, saying we're scammers, saying that 130 doesn't exist, that she's at the park right now. There is no mobile home park, and that, like, if we want to collect our $1,000, we need to show up at this property right now. Blah 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 blah. And I'm just reading this unhinged stuff. At the time, we didn't know about the other 130. So when I hear somebody's this unhinged saying that they're at our park, their car is broken down, that they're like saying that we're scammers, blah, 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 I'm thinking, great. Now I do have to go to the mobile home park to make sure that this crazy woman isn't tearing apart my damn property. We get there, silent. Nobody's
peaceful.
There. No car there. I even asked one of our tenants, like, hey, have you seen anybody here in the last hour? Because it took us 30 minutes to get there. And we're like, have you seen anybody here in the last hour or anything else of that? Nope. The only people that showed up was early in the morning. Those were some people that Derek had talked to. And we're like, huh, okay. Walk away from the situation. And then I was too curious about it. So I did the background research. And that's when I found out about the other 130 Car Court. It's so funny to me. Because the thing is that if she just would have visited the property, like we had told her multiple times to do, all of that would have been avoided. Instead, now she's burned a bridge, and I will never deal with her in regards to our properties, because I already didn't like her background, and seeing how unhinged she was about it did not make a better case for her. That just wrote her off completely, whether she has down payments or not. So yeah, that was an interesting thing with the 130 listing. But yeah, so 130 is listed. 136 is obviously listed. We waited the abandonment period. Obviously, there was no response. We haven't received payment. We haven't been reached out to. So we reclaimed the property as usual. Got that all taken care of now. And now we're getting into the important stuff. So let us move on to the Refocus Meeting. So for those of you that don't know, a Refocus Meeting is exactly what it sounds like. Derek and I decided, actually last year, because we haven't been doing it as often as we should, we decided that every year going forward, we're going to have 2 refocus meetings. So it's going to be biannually. So there's going to be one at the beginning of the new year and one in the summer to see where we are, how we're doing, and like where we're at with our goals that we had set prior, and like where we're at to achieving it, and what we need to change, what we need to agree on, and so on and so forth. Here's the thing. If you are a sole business owner with nobody else involved, you don't really need to do a refocus meeting. You know, and you can mentally think to yourself, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to proceed forward. You're running a dictatorship, right? Like you could just move forward the second you make a decision and like you're good to go. In a partnership, you can't do that. You and the other partner have to be on the same page at all times. It's impossible to be 100% synced, but you need to be pretty damn close so that way you can see the proper vision and the way forward. Prime example of something like this, that when something isn't being properly envisioned or like shown, think of like a really bad movie or a really bad video game. That's something where there was a creative director who's supposed to be spearheading the direction of everything, and everyone else is supposed to understand, okay, this is where we're going, okay, this is what we're following, and so on and so forth. Well, if that creative director isn't doing a good job conveying the vision and constantly staying on top of it, that's what makes that media fall apart. It's no different in a business. You have to stay on top of it. Otherwise, I'm doing something, he's doing something else, and our goals are colliding because I'm arguing why this is the good thing to go for, and he's arguing this. Versus if we sit down before anything like that happens and set out a task and a goal that we're wanting to accomplish, it eliminates a lot of that dispute, it eliminates a lot of that argument, and it allows us to clearly almost tunnel vision towards where we want to go and be like, okay, this isn't going to achieve that, this isn't going to do that, and we can focus on exactly that. If you want to take it away from here.
I was going to say, an easy example to understand is, think of it like there's one ship and two people are trying to pilot it, right? You got one guy wanting to go to the right, one guy wanting to go to the left, and you're going neither. And the problem is maybe in one case, one guy turns it to the right, one guy then turns it back to the left, and you're supposed to be landing up somewhere around here to this island or something, and you guys are zigzagging, you get way off course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, is that it's fine to have two captains effectively. The main thing is just making sure you're both are going to the same goal.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that we're talking about here, is that we're making sure whatever direction we're steering this ship, both of us are agreeing that this will eventually lead us to whatever island or whatever we're trying to get to. Not we're both just going, I'm going my way, no, I'm thinking it should go this way, and we're feuding with each other, or we're going to two different destinations and we don't land on either.
And here's the thing too, you have to remember, I'm very confident we've talked about this in prior videos. The reason I personally actually nominated Derek to be the CEO, which is a higher position versus mine in my own company that I'm paying half of, is because a CEO's job is to look towards the future always. Like, that is what a CEO is supposed to do. They are supposed to be thinking not today, not tomorrow, but 6 months, a year from now, where are we going to be? The reason I decided to become a president instead of our company is because I'm great at short-term solutions and short-term thinking, because that's also the problem when you have such a split mindset where you're only always focusing on the future and one person like me is always only focusing on the short term. Both are required, because here's the thing, the future can't happen if we're not able to pay the bills today. You get what I'm saying? But at the same time, if we're only focusing on being able to pay today, we're not going any further. We're just constantly band-aid fixing and patching things here and there and just like playing it day by day, being very reactionary. So that's what makes a good dynamic between me and him, is because he can focus so far advanced into the future and I can focus on the day-to-day. So that way, when we don't have an answer, I'm like, if we don't have an answer today how to do something, I'm usually the one that comes up with something. But whenever I present something that I think is a great idea, he can always show me the flaws in it in the long term and explain to me, no, this actually is going to work for us going forward in a long scenario. Prime example, one thing him and I have gone back and forth on is obviously campers. Campers are a great short-term solution profit vehicle, but terrible in the long term because of how unreliable they are with being able to be maintained and upkept the way that they should be. Versus, like, obviously a mobile home is much easier to work with because you can get all the parts for it in everyday hardware stores. But a camper, you're going to have to buy a lot of parts from like specialty stores. Thus, you end up with a longer, bigger cost than if you just would have bought the mobile home up front to begin with. So on and so forth. Little things like that. And again, when you have two different focus mentalities in a company like this, you have to constantly keep each other focused on what we're doing, because then when we have the goal list, he knows what he needs to be planning for where we need to go, and I know, okay, we agreed to these goals, these are short-term solutions for us to make it to these goals, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that was some of the things. If you want to go over some of the general goals that we said, now would be a good time to do so.
Our goal list was pretty simple. I mean, it's the same thing you would do if you did like a personal goal, like what do you like? Literally, the question you get whenever you're going into an employee, like hiring of any kind, you get that like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, whatever the heck. Same thing generally happened here. We're just like, all right, well, where are we at right now? Where do we expect ourselves, or what do we want ourselves to be in 6 months? And then we also did one for a year. So we did the full year route because, like you mentioned before, in 6 months we're going to meet back up and make sure that one, we're still working towards that goal, and if we're not, righting the ship and putting ourselves back towards the goal, kind of thing. So generally speaking, it's pretty simple, right? You have your general outlook of where we want to be in terms of growth and progress. So main thing we obviously said was, prior to this year, obviously all of our time and money and investment was to get this company on its own 2 feet and standing, and that going forth in 2023 and beyond, this company is now going to produce us personally money, and so now we're going to actually start taking pay out of it. So now it has to be not only able to stand on its own, but become profitable. And so then from there, it's like, how profitable do we want it to become? So in this particular company, where it stands right now is, obviously, as I mentioned before, it fluctuates like hell. We're averaging somewhere around like 5K, right? 4K, somewhere around there, and a month. And so what we'd like to be is, I want it to be where at the end of the year, not only is it going to be significantly more profitable, but also we have a little bit of leftover debts and things we need to pay off some stuff too that we still kind of carried over from the first year. So we're going to catch up all those debts and then have just pure profit from this point forward. So I'd like it to be around 20K in profit by the end of the year, minimum, if not 25 or so, which is very doable, right? Sounds crazy because it's 5 times the amount of money, 4 times the amount of money.
Yeah, we're talking people's annual salary and just pure profit.
Yeah, but the thing is this is just how exponential growth works. You know, obviously, I'm sure you've heard of the penny principle, right? If you have a penny, then you double it, you double and double. At the end of 30, you have $1 million, right? So you started with a penny, 30 times it's doubled, you have $1 million. That's significantly faster than you expect. And that's kind of the same thing here, is that now that we've got into a profitable position, that profitability will compound substantially faster as we continue to reinvest, and those reinvestments then turn into new reinvestments, and so on and so forth. That leads into the next part, which is, now we got to figure out the strategy to get there. So this is where Vlad and I really had our biggest kind of shocks in terms of different perspectives and whatnot. Obviously, I'm looking for long term. I focus significantly on investments that will continue to grow and scale. And obviously, he's looking to maintain what we have so it doesn't crumble and collapse on us, and then we have nothing to stand on in the future.
The big differences that we had was that Derek was saying that he just wanted to keep acquiring and then use the acquisition funds and then eventually go back and start righting the other problems. I was very hell-bent on saying we need to start just replacing parts of the mobile home park. Yeah. Like, rip it out and just replace it with a new one or a used one in great condition or something like that, and we'll make more money. So, like, prime example, some of these houses we're only getting like $470 from. If we just replace it and put a new one on there, I'm very confident we could probably make close to, if not double, whatever it would do. And this is what we're talking about with different strategies. Acquiring new properties will bring us in more profit. Replacing the ones that we currently have will bring us in more profit. Now it's, well, what are we going to do? And that's kind of where we get into this like back and forth with it. And then Derek actually came up with a great idea of how to do this moving forward. And this is where we agreed to something finally and then started being like, okay, let's move forward with this.
Yeah, so pretty much what we came to is kind of like a tic-tac-toe strategy thing, like a just hopscotch over a little line here. We're already currently working on an investment, so we're going to continue with that first. Get an investment in, finish out whatever we get, whether it's the current one that we're joking about with the skeleton. If that falls through, then we're going to invest in something else first. Get that done. And then after we get that in, whatever profits, whatever investment income we have left, if we have any money left in the bank, because maybe the investment was cheaper than what we had in the bank, whatever we have left then goes back into either a remodel / replace of either the mobile home park or some other property that we have at the time. And then same thing, go back into an investment, then back over into a remodel replace, investment, remodel replace.
So basically, instead of us taking out a full loan to 100% like replace out the mobile home park like I would want to do or whatever else, what we decided to do is to keep acquiring new assets, because that's the thing. Your asset portfolio should always be growing as much as possible, because the thing is, once you stop, whether it's for good reason or bad reason, once you stop, it's gonna start depleting. It's not an infinite thing. Even if you're doing a rental, eventually it's gonna get so messed up or so not worth it that you're either gonna just decide to sell it, or you're gonna have to dump a ton of money into it, which is basically remodeling it from the ground up, or you might have to just replace it with something else. So sell it, then buy something else with it. So what we thought was the better strategy is, like he's saying, let's say we buy 2 houses, then we take the money and the profit off of those houses as well as everything else that Metra has and move it back over and now replace 1 mobile home. Maybe 2. It depends on, obviously, it's going to depend. Like if there's like 2 10K mobile homes in great, excellent condition, oh yeah, forget that. Let's go on ahead and buy these, replace it out. Cool, let's keep moving on from there. But then at the same time, if there's like 3 great deal properties, like somebody's offering like a portfolio package or something like that, no, let's focus on acquiring this instead of putting more money towards replacement. And it's going to be a weird balancing act that we're going to like play around with and try to figure out what's going to work. We don't want to set like hard times, like, okay, for 6 months, we're only going to focus on acquisitions. Okay, for 6 months, we're only going to focus on replacement, because investing, it's always different. Time really, really matters in investing. That moment and that time and that particular deal is only going to be available for a limited time. And once it's gone, you're not getting that deal. You have to find another one, which is fine. There's always plenty of deals to be had and plenty of deals to be made. But at the same time, you got to kind of focus on it. So it's not necessarily a hard like time frame or like an X amount of new acquisitions, X amount of it's just, okay, we're going to acquire some, we're going to step back and be like, okay, we've acquired enough, we need to go back, and then start making some kind of replacement, remodel, see what we can do with that, and then flip back over and just keep doing this back and forth. That way, our ship, like we explained before in the December update, you're on a sinking ship whenever you're making a new company. Well, we're not on a sinking ship anymore, but there's still plenty of holes. And if they go unattended long enough, they're going to become a massive problem. So now we're constantly acquiring new like lumber, new food, new trade items to then fix the ship up better and just keep moving it on that way. So that's kind of the general plan with it. And overall, I think that's a sound strategy, because as him and I discussed, it creates a safety net for us. So we're going to mess up. We're going to make a bad investment. Any investor that tells you they've never made a bad investment or lost money is either a liar, a con artist, or hasn't been investing for very long. It's just the nature of the game. We're going to lose money at some point. How far are we going to fall before we have something to catch us as like our restart point to rebound and continue moving forward from there?
So think of it like steps in this case. So you have the low level where you step on, risers and runners as they call it. So you have the lowest level that your foot goes on, and then think of it like, in this case, we're going to acquire new investments, but then we're going to fix our old investments. So that means that our new fall point, the part we step on, is going to be up here. We have a new platform. Then you continue to fix that up so you're nice and safe here, and then same thing, acquire new investments, fix what you have, make sure you can maintain what you have. And so this way, at any point in time, if you're buying into some stuff and it turns out bad, the worst that happens is you fall to the most recent level that you've maintained. So that way, at any point in time, you're still making forever progress, but like he says, the part where you fall won't completely undo all your progress. You have a higher level of a safety net because you're literally working into that as part of your investment strategy. And that's effectively what we agreed to. So I'm more like the rising, he's more like the running, and then we're just going to continue to kind of scale in a general accordance with that. Like you mentioned, barring some flexibility because timing of the market. So for example, it might be a great time to buy a bunch of old mobile homes or something that we can remodel with or replace everything. It might be a better time to be buying into a bunch of houses or some other stuff we can get into. We play within the bounds, but we have kind of like a sandbox that we barrier that we're going to work with. And, as long as, nothing crazy happens, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like some insane scenario in which somebody just drops a house on us and then all of a sudden we're like, well, we're just going to change the entire strategy and focus on this now. Barring some crazy scenario like that, or like some crazy investment money comes in, generally speaking, this is relatively what we do.
Yeah, so like obviously inheritance, life insurance kind of stuff, like some great lost uncle sat there and left like his estate. Now Derek and I decide like how to turn this into like a money generating machine, whatever else, things like that. But that's the general refocus on it. So I'm happy we did it. I'm happy we sat down and we agreed to start doing this, because even when we were doing like partnerships in the past before him and I fully dedicated to Metra, we didn't even do that back then. We agreed to roles and we followed those roles and just said that all decisions had to be unanimous between us. So that's kind of how we went about it from there. Versus this now, it will help keep us in line. And I know it seems weird because like you have to understand, this is the stuff that major successful companies do. That's why they have these board meetings like once every 3 months, because there's so many people involved that you have to constantly keep getting updates, like what's happening in the field, what's going on here, why are employees leaving, what are we doing for profits, where are we going here. That's why they do these board meetings so often. So even in a 2-man operation, I mean, biannually is still effective enough for us. But potentially as we keep growing and we get more and more members involved and more people, we have to start scaling that up, because the more people you get involved in a project, the more the message can get misconstrued, misled, or misunderstood altogether.
That's correct.
So,
I mean, I'm good with the vision thing. Anything else you want to mention on it?
No, that's it. I'd say we'll move on to the budget.
All right, and so as the budget for January goes, honestly, pretty simple. We have some carryover debt from still the the replacing of all the water pipes that happened when they burst at the end of December, which, like I said, carried into January. And then, as par for the course, as we tell you every time when it comes to investing, for some reason, it's just part of the nature of people that they prioritize holiday spending over their own living conditions, which boggles my mind. But it just happens every time. So unfortunately, there are a couple people.
As a real estate investor, lender, anything dealing with the general public and investing and collecting money from the general public for housing or utilities, water, all that, you literally go into winter expecting to have to hibernate off your profits off September to November. Those profits are your hibernation profits.
It's just weird, because I just mentally imagine if I were in that position, I'd rather make sure that I have a place to live than having a Christmas tree up. Now, once again, that might be me. I understand the children or whatever might be miserable for that one Christmas, but I would rather sacrifice one Christmas to guarantee they have future Christmases to come. But
then sacrifice my entire living situation.
I don't know. It just blows my mind. But this happens literally every year. Routine, guaranteed. But for some reason, we always get like a third to half of our income just slashed for that November through January period. Whatever. So with that being said, so overall, generally speaking, still a great month, even though with accounting for that extra cost from the carryover debt and the loss of income, we still actually come out profitable this month, which is fantastic, because obviously we're going to use that to fuel our vision, as we mentioned, into future investments and repairs. So everybody effectively paid at the park except for 122. They actually just called me today. They were under a misunderstanding. They thought it was for the 1st of the month, not the 25th of the month. So they are planning on paying this Friday, and they'll catch back up on that. So in next month, if they do a double payment, I'll add that in there. And then same thing, we have people who are kind of falling behind. But with that being said, we have no income for 130 still. 136 obviously didn't produce any income this month. 138 obviously never did. So that's the 3 main zeros. Everything else is either partial payments, behind payments, and whatnot. So total we brought in this month is $5,005. Pretty reasonable.
$5,705.
Sorry, $5,705. I was looking at a different number there. $5,705, which is still pretty reasonable. Once again, barring the circumstances. Going into the debts, big debt with some leftover. Forgot to mention too, we did return some of the materials because obviously we used a lot. We got like $400-ish back out of the like 1,000 plus.
With like spent. 50 of it being store credit because we couldn't find the receipt, and I didn't have like obviously the cards that Derek had and so on and so forth. It is what it is, but yeah, we did make some massive returns. It wasn't much. So
that is partially reflected in here. But generally speaking, we had to buy some more stuff at the beginning of this month still to finish everything out. So anyways, we paid $1,400 for Divvy. We still have that Amazon debt, which is actually a carryover debt from when we remodeled 108. So we had one more payment left on it, and that was also for tools and things that we've been using. And then just our general routine costs, lot rent, mortgage. We have another card that we use for like the car insurance as well as phone and some other various stuff. So total debt came out to $4,591.54 with a grand total net of $1,113.46. Now let me clarify one very important question that some of you probably have, which is, this is January. Should there be another big debt on there? Yes. Yes, there is. If you aren't asking that question, that tells me that you need to get around to investing in some properties, because the one big debt that comes in January every year is property taxes. And no, we did not pay our property taxes yet because of the specific investment that we're working towards. We want to basically make sure every dollar we have available is to get into this so we can hit the ground running, and the little bit of accrued cost that we're getting from the non-payment of property taxes,
basically the government charging us late fees,
is totally worth us getting a larger income spread off of getting this thing running and profitable than it would be to just pay those debts now and then have less money available for repairs, remodeling, all that other stuff. So yes, there is a big debt that we have not paid, which is property taxes, which is probably somewhere around $5,500 total. That will be eventually paid depending on additional costs that accrue, because once again, it depends on when we pay for it. So if we pay it now, it's only a 3% late fee. If we pay it in like March, I think it's like 5 or so. It adds up, so it just depends on when we're going to pay it. So once again, barring this particular investment or another investment, we will then pay that, and that'll be reflected in whatever month that is when it's paid.
Yep.
But with that being said, we still have $1,000 that we profited this month. And then also with that being said, if we were to have had to pay our property taxes on time, we would have had the funds to do so because of the previous months of profit that we've been producing. So once again, very good month. We still have the money to be able to afford to maintain this business moving forward and so on. So overall, still good. With that being said, though, this investment really needs to come through so we can actually get back to doing what we do.
Yeah, mid-February or whatnot, if it's still not coming through, we don't have anything on paper, we're moving on to something else. We'll still try to see if we can't make it work, but at that point, we're not going to keep hoarding our money for it.
Because which is what we're doing.
Yeah, which is what we're doing right now. We're literally gold hoarding our money to try to get into this. But if it's not going to pan out, oh well, I'll move on to something else, because it's starting to cost us too much to keep like hoarding it, not knowing if we're officially getting into it.
So yeah, overall, relatively short month. Didn't really do much. We just sat around. I mean, we actually did a lot of stuff in the background, but we can't really talk about it because once again, we'll get there. But outside of that, I mean, pretty simple month. Pretty much par for the course for winter. Usually it's just a bunch of carryover problems that happened from the previous year, and then just government things, paying taxes, doing taxes in general, which we'll have to do here soon. We're going to do our corporate taxes soon, personal income taxes, which we'll get on to that later when those come up. But yeah, overall, good month. We're really expecting some good things happening in February, and we'll see you in that next video unless you have something else to say.
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. See you in the next one.
Peace.